Entiano na Osono Amenyoku NPP, the new patriotic party. I just say omu hero ba kopa omu uniform to uniform. JB Danquah. And me very sure say because of JB Danquah kura ho ma that daughter of a medwa sit down a PM of Ghana Parliament because I think that NPP only feel say the NDC is denigrating their hero because of that. They wouldn't buy that idea. And then what's since JB Danquah ewuye you only 60 years mu eti enwa enese Osono Amenyoku NPP omu echo hodi grand remembrance service at the MN is Akufo Addo piase no Afenyo Markin echo make his speech be in fact touch the heart of Akufo Addo NPP before na ewo ho nyina aha Penyah block media message any demo obe like video no na dawroma obe subscribe button na sabe click notification icon for latest updates na be kire wadwen e de ama me ewo comment section any demo message aya no share video na ma onua so enya bi ahwe it as a first story in the introduction over NPP mo one of their heroes I say Oma di nyina JB Danquah omundo uniform in fact say o kasa JB Danquah na say MPP ni gyina ho a ahe onu bewu and we are very sure say those of a medwans and say Ghana Parliament no I think say na MP for feel say the NDC that the Tamale Central MP was denigrating on the integrity of JB Danquah and I think say man leading to that daughter of a medras sit down and no claim say Rollins a medra like medra say Rollins a medra and any neba enis or kasebi what I say eti enwa ana Afenyo Markin and MP before no a year grand remembrance service that is 60th remembrance service Emma JB Danquah Emma yes Afenyo Markin na all be deliver speech no they will say oba ho no mo ɔbɛduru na sɛ ɔsom ɛkɔ so na anika ɛwɔ hɔ nom
so ɛtu so kɔre ɔno na yi fata mane nso ɔgyawani di hyɛ no nyam nyame yɛ kɛse fi akoma mu lift your heart worship him adore him ɔgyani din gɔnabɔ din tumfoɔ kɛse no no
ɛno akyi Afenyo Markin ɛgye microphone ɛna ɔsan sɛ ɔ deliver the speech na just say it was heartfelt speech for Kuffour and the NPP members as party.
I must add that the statement is also in the compendium. I got that. Thank you so much. God bless you.
The Ochihine Osajifo Amoitia of Penyah, former president, Nana Addo Danquah, Akufo Addo, Ochihima Nana Educhumwa Dokua, our former first lady, Mrs. Rebecca Akufo Addo, deputy minority leader, colleague members of parliament, the clergy, party leaders, family members, Nananom, ladies and gentlemen. Today, we gather in solemn remembrance and profound reflection as we mark 60 years since the passing of one of Ghana's most remarkable patriots, Dr. Joseph Boakye Danquah, who endured ultimate sacrifice for his love for his country and the freedom of her people. His legacy is woven into the fabric of Ghana's political, intellectual, and constitutional development. Dr. Danquah was more than a scholar, politician, statesman, and an advocate. He was a poet, a playwright, and a chronicler of our history, customs, and norms. He was a visionary who dedicated his life to laying the foundational principles of our democracy. Indeed, the principles of democratic accountability, free enterprise, free expression, and the rule of law, which are all today enshrined in the Fourth Republican Constitution, are the very ones that he fought for from the 1920s and died for in 1965. It is a statement of his foresight and that of the many others who shared those ideals that the 1992 Constitution has given rise to the longest enduring democratic rule in Ghana's history. His journey from Bepon in Kwewu through his administrative work at the Penyah Palace here in Chebi to the halls of the University of London was not merely a pursuit of personal academic excellence, but the epitome of African intellectual resilience and excellence. As a royal, legal practitioner, philosopher, historian, and a nationalist, he sought to shape a governance system of freedom and progress that reflected the pluralistic and cultural depth of our people. He foresaw what an independent Gold Coast represented, a role model for the rest of sub-Saharan Africa, and he was determined to see this future shaped strictly by the fundamental tenet of inclusive development in freedom. When Danquah speaks of liberating the energies of the people for the growth of a property-owning democracy in this land, would rise to life, freedom, and justice as the principles to which the government and the laws of the land should be dedicated in order to specifically to enrich life, property, and liberty of each and every citizen. Indeed, he means the goal should be to build a society of what he called addition, where every citizen has the opportunity and the privilege to create, grow, and enjoy the world in freedom and responsibly. His vision for Ghanaians remained the Ghana we all want and desire and deserve. Indeed, it's the reason why the mighty minority is firm in Parliament and holding the feet of the NDC to the fire. It is no wonder then that the Wassim Commission in 1948, the recommendation from which helped pave the way for Ghana's independence, acknowledged Danquah's towering leadership in the long push to end colonialism in the Gold Coast. The report read, quote, Dr. Danquah might be described as the doyen of Gold Coast politicians. He has founded or been connected with most political movements since his adolescence, unquote. This recognition reflects not only his pioneering role in political organization, but also his unwavering commitment to the political emancipation of the Gold Coast. Dr. Danquah's scholarship was pioneered. The Akan doctrine of God challenged colonial narratives and asserted African cosmologies as deserving of scholarly attention. He was not merely an intellectual for academia's sake. His studies were meant to shape governance, policy, and national identity. It was his belief that democracy must be built on what he called Ghanaianism, a vision of shared national identity and unity among the diverse ethnic groups in the Gold Coast, rooted in the country's history, culture, and traditions, while also embracing modern democratic principles and governance. The key elements of his Ghanaianism are: 1. Cultural pride, unity in diversity, and self-determination and democratic values. The name Ghana was proposed by Dr. JB Danquah. Proud to independence, Dr. Danquah traveled to England to conduct extensive research on suitable name that will reflect the history, identity, and heritage of the people of the Gold Coast. He spent considerable time at the British Museum and other libraries, meticulously studying primary historical sources on the origins and traditions of the ethnic groups within the Gold Coast. Of course, we are called Ghana today because of the research and advocacy of Dr. Danquah. Through his scholarly investigations, Dr. Danquah discovered a historical connection between the people of the Gold Coast and ancient Ghana Empire. He argued that adopting the name Ghana would symbolize the strength, heritage, continuity of the origins of ancestral past, fostering a shared national identity and pride. The United Gold Coast Convention, formed in 1947, agreed to use the name Ghana upon independence. This proposal was ultimately accepted when the country attained independence in 1957. His role in the formation of UGCC was instrumental in setting Ghana on the path to independence. Dennis Austin, in his work Politics in Ghana, page 7, affirms Danquah's central role in conceptualizing and organizing the UGCC in these veritable words. Quote, "The idea of a new political movement was almost certainly that of Danquah. He was associated with several quasi-political bodies, representative on the Cocoa Marketing Board for the Colony Farmers Movement, as well as Joint Provincial Council and representative on the Legislative Council," end quote. This view is corroborated by Peter T. Omari in his book Kwame Nkrumah, The Anatomy of Africa Dictatorship, emphasizing Dr. Danquah's organizational effort in the early stages of the UGCC's development. Omari states, quote, "The man who has organized the United Gold Coast Convention earlier that year, in April and May 1947, and who had been instrumental in launching it in August, was Dr. JB Danquah." In 1948, the consensus from the Watson's Commission report was that Ghana would achieve independence within 10 years. UGCC were for a peaceful transition to independence in the shortest possible time. Nkrumah and his Convention People's Party in 1949 called for independence now. Yet, we achieved independence in 1957 and became a republic 3 years after. Dr. Danquah championed a constitutional approach, one that safeguarded freedoms and built enduring institutions. This belief in the supremacy of the law made him a fierce opponent of unchecked political power to a point that party and nation became one, with the Ghana flag being replaced by the flag of the CPP. When the Preventive Detention Acts of 1958 threatened the liberties he had fought for, Dr. Danquah stood firm in defense of justice. Though his challenge to the acts in court failed, his moral victory paved the way for future constitutional reforms, including the enshrinement of human rights and judicial independence in Ghana's post-1966 legal framework. His tragic death in detention in 1965 remains a somber reminder of the cost of tyranny and the unyielding price of defending a democracy. Beyond politics, Dr. Danquah embodied the delicate balance between tradition and modernity. As Trafo Hine of Achimebwakwa, he understood that traditional authority was not an impediment to development, but a crucial pillar of governance.
After this speech, Kuffour Addo and NPP gave Afenyo Markin a standing ovation to show their, the appreciation to him to have delivered such, according to them, a powerful speech for the late JB Danquah. Obet material wajene, ewa comment section. Aha Penyah Blog Media. Okay.